This image here depicts the same man wearing formal and casual clothing. As demonstrated by this quote from researchers Rose and other in their research paper, Social Values, Conformity, and Dress, fashion trends are an important part of our society, as they are an important way of communicating one's values and beliefs. As we see in the image over here, the man on the left is perceived as more serious and formal, while the man over here on the right is seen as more casual and relaxed, and we get this only based off what they're wearing. This illustrates the importance of fashion trends in society. Fashion trends is a term that is used to describe what people are wearing in society and the adoption of widely spread popularized clothing. Good morning. My name is Safi Ali, and I will be speaking about the negativity of fashion trends. As fashion trends are prominent in our society, it leads to the question, in the 21st century, to what extent have fashion trends had a negative impact on society? The negative effect of fashion trends can be seen in two categories. The first is through conformity, which leads to actions such as synchronous behavior. What is important about conformity is brand attachment. While brand attachment might not sound that negative, it is having a strong connection to a clothing brand, which in turn stimulates the fast fashion industry, as some brands might be associated with that. And the fast fashion industry has negatively impacted society through harsh labor practices and the environment. To start off, the American Psychological Association defines conformity as the adjustment of one's opinions, actions, or judgments to be more consistent with the already established group norm. Fashion trends are a prime example of this. For example, an immigrant wearing their traditional ethnic clothing in the United States might feel pressured to wear Western clothing to fit in more around them with the already established fashion trend. While this might be true for why people conform to fashion trends, this is not always why people conform to fashion trends, and the reasons are different. Researchers Rose and others propose a model for why people conform to fashion trends. They state that conformists value the social aspects of clothing, and as a result will emphasize style and brand name. Following the model, we can see that people need to satisfy some social values, which are derived from group identification or the need for affiliation. This will lead them to be conformists, and when they're conformists, they will conform due to utilitarian qualities, style, or brand name in clothing. This is already negative, as people learn to affiliate their social values with what they are wearing, and people should be able to express themselves freely regardless of what they are wearing. It should be noted that some researchers claim that conforming to fashion trends might be beneficial. For people like immigrants, this leads to a more unified group of people, better group togetherness, and more cooperation. As previously stated in the model, some people might also conform just to some certain utilitarian qualities in clothing, such as durability. While this might be true, this is not always the case. The research paper, The Cultural Evolutionary Trade-Off of Ritualistic Synchrony by Gelfand and others, provided by the College Board, further elaborates this. On the left over here, we can see that this image supports the opposing claims, showing how ritualistic synchrony provides better group cohesion. The researchers describe ritualistic synchrony as synchronous behavior bringing people together. Fashion trends are a prime example of ritualistic synchrony, but they are a silent one, as they bring people together by having them dress similarly rather than dancing or singing together. On the right over here, we can see that Gelfand shows how the negatives outweigh the positives severely. By conforming to fashion trends, it leads to less creativity and less attention to minority perspectives, essentially eliminating the voice of some cultures' fashion in society. The most concerning part about conforming to fashion trends is brand attachment. Brand attachment, as researcher Cheng shows from a social behavior and personality journal, is that brand attachment is when people feel emotionally connected to a clothing brand. While this might not sound negative, some brands might be associated with the fast fashion industry, which has negatively affected society through the environment and labor conditions. In Rachel Monroe's article, Ultra Fast Fashion is Eating the World, provided by the College Board, she states this is only possible due to the exploitation of workers. The fast fashion industry has negatively impacted society through their usage of labor practices. Biometric clocks, such as fingerprint scanners, have led to workers to have increased stress, as they could easily be caught not working. Moreover, malfunctions in these biometric clocks might create even more stress for workers, which leads them to sweat, and fingerprint scanners do not properly work when they're sweating, creating even more stress, and workers could be losing losing pay for time that is not worked. Moreover, labor conditions in garment factories are also highly dangerous. In 2005, in the country of Bangladesh alone, international sources estimate 1,800 deaths. In 2013, one accident of Rana Plaza killed more than 1,100 people alone, international sources state, and the factory was asked to close many times before, but refused, and this incident brought about international awareness about the conditions in garment factories. Not only has the fast fashion industry negatively impacted society through labor practices, but also through the environment, through emissions, overproduction, and pollution. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation, a charity promoting environmental sustainability, estimates that by 2050, 26% of all global carbon emissions will be produced by the fast fashion industry alone. This is concerning, as the International Energy Administration states that 19% of all global carbon emissions are just from industry. That's over 6,000 megatons of carbon dioxide. Clothing is also overproduced in the world. As a clothing company states that 100 billion articles of clothing has been produced in the year of 2014, that same clothing company also states that 40% of our wardrobes are rarely worn, so less than half of these clothing is going to waste. Moreover, researchers state that 85% of this clothing will be sent to landfills, polluting the environment, when they could have been reworn or recycled. This shows how the very act of the consumer feeling attached to a certain clothing brand has led to all of these environmental impacts. Solutions to this problem do exist, but they all have their respective limitations. One of the easiest ways is to simply stop or slow the spread of fashion trends altogether. One way to do this is to limit the usage of social media, as social media is a prime way to diffuse fashion trends. However, this has its limitation. As researcher Du states in her article provided by the College Board, people are likely to conform to fashion trends or any sort of conformity through social interactions with their peers and adults. Another solution is to support eco-friendly and humanitarian companies and policies. However, this is hard to enforce, as the Bangladeshi government alone publicly acknowledges that 90% of one city's high-rise buildings do not meet any established safety standards. Moreover, eco-friendly companies are not always reliable when saying that they are eco-friendly. At the end of the day, the real solution is up to the consumer to make an educated choice when purchasing clothing and do research when purchasing their clothing. However, not all consumers are able to do this, and some simply do not want to. Here are my works cited. Thank you. Any questions?
Do you have two questions for you? First up, how'd your research question evolve as you moved through this whole process?
So my research question evolved as I moved through this whole process to focus more on the fast fashion industry. Originally, my research question was only focused on the negative aspects of conforming to fashion trends, but there wasn't that already much established research on just conforming to them. So I had to think where the clothing comes from, and that led me to brand attachment and the fast fashion industry.
All right, and if you had more time, what additional research would you conduct on this?
If I had more time, additional research I would conduct is looking more into why people tend to conform to fashion trends and brand attachment especially. It really intrigues me that people have an emotional connection to clothing brands, and I would really like to research more into this and see how willing people are to go into those certain clothing brands.